There is a new explosive report investigating now former Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard's ties to a religious sect called Science of Foundation, raising questions about whether a spiritual guru had extraordinary influence over her policymaking, her politics, and virtually every move she made on camera for years. Washington Post investigative reporter John Swain obtained hundreds of confidential memos detailing guidance allegedly sent to Gabbard from 2011 to 2017, including when she was in Congress. Evidence, Swain says, points to the memos coming from a man named Chris Butler, head of a breakaway sect of the Hare Krishna group, someone Gabbard has called her guru. The Washington Post compared Gabbard's remarks in 32 TV interviews between 2014 and 2016 with talking points allegedly sent to her, and found that on 24 occasions, Gabbard used language sent to her in those memos almost verbatim. Other times, Gabbard used different words, but promoted basically the exact same ideas. A chief of staff for Gabbard told the Post in part, quote, "The attacks on Director Gabbard's faith and loyalty are not only false, they are a blatant example of anti-Hindu bigotry." And a PR firm connected to the religious sect also told the Post, quote, "Hindu phobia, anti-Hindu religious bigotry, that's all this is. When a Hindu public figure has a spiritual teacher or shares views with a Hindu religious figure, that alone is somehow evidence of sinister control." Let's bring in Washington Post investigative reporter John Swain. It's good to see you. What an incredible piece here. But I want to back up for a moment. How did you get a hold of that trove of confidential memos and end up tracking down this story?
Back when Tulsi Gabbard was nominated by President Trump to be Director of National Intelligence in November 2024, I was looking into Tulsi Gabbard and her relationship with her guru, trying to find out this question, this issue of how much influence did he have on her? And at the time, I kind of struck out. I didn't get anywhere. And someone I spoke with at the time, who's in the same religious group, the Science of Identity Foundation, reached back out months later. And through our conversations, it led to her checking an old email inbox. And in that inbox, remarkably, were hundreds of memos that she and others around the guru had received during Tulsi Gabbard's time in Congress. And they contained what appeared to be firm directives, guidance, advice, sometimes verging on orders for things that Tulsi Gabbard should do or say.
John, you know, a lot of members of Congress, they have ties to influential pastors around the United States, some of whom are very controversial themselves. So what did you find in this reporting that struck you as different or wholly unusual when you think about the relationships that a lot of politicians have with religious figures around the United States?
Sure. And of course, you know, members of Congress have rabbis and priests and imams. And Tulsi Gabbard herself had said that her relationship with her guru was just like that. It was a spiritual relationship. He was her spiritual teacher. She was asked back in 2019 directly, did he ever politically mentor her? And she was emphatic. She said, no, no. What we found in these documents, however, is that in addition to spiritual advice and advice about her faith, Gabbard was receiving extensive, detailed directives for what legislation to propose, what to say in press releases, what to say in TV interviews, as you highlighted. And I think it's pretty clear that that kind of relationship, that kind of advice and directives and guidance far exceeds the regular relationship that a member of Congress would have with a religious leader, where we're not going anywhere near the details of Director Gabbard's Hindu faith. We're not talking about the theology involved here. The claims of Hindu phobia sort of miss the point, I think, which is that this is about political guidance and directives for a public official on what she should propose in the House, what she should say in public statements. And, you know, members of Congress are on committees that deal with very important things. And this level of advice and guidance is pretty extraordinary.
For anyone who hasn't had the chance to read the piece, I want to read an example that you cite from 2014. A memo says, important to do, must tweet around 9 a.m. It contained a pre-written tweet with a link to a video on the plight of Kurdish fighters in the Syrian in a Syrian city, which was under siege by the Islamic State extremist group. Then came this tweet from Gabbard carrying out a wish list. In another 2014 example, a memo contains policy instructions that warn to avoid delays in medical treatment. Veterans should be able to get care at any hospital and be reimbursed by Veterans Affairs, and they should be able to do so without first obtaining government approval. Actually put forward legislation, get it done, the speaker said. It is highly, highly unusual. I mean, you have other instances, too, where there's advice about things to say in television hits, and then you're able to find the exact moments where she's gone on a network, like on with Wolf Blitzer at CNN, and says almost exactly what she has been told to say. When you've spoken to experts, and as you did all this work for the story, what kind of questions does this raise for you? A lot of this material comes from when she was serving in Congress, but of course, she was just the nation's top spy chief. What are the implications of that?
She was, and I should say, as you point out, these memos with guidance and directives stopped before she left Congress. In terms of the ones that I have access to, we don't know if they continued in those years afterward. But there was a second half to this story, which was that followers, devotees of her guru for years ran an initiative to boost Tulsi Gabbard online. They posted comments on social media. They replied to newspaper articles on newspaper websites. And what I was able to find was that that side of things, at least, did continue right up to her nomination as DNI through her presidential campaign in 2020. And I found that accounts that were operated by her faith group in the years sort of a decade ago were continuing to tweet in her favor in support of her when she stepped down as DNI just in these recent weeks. So it really indicates that there is this ongoing relationship to some extent between Tulsi Gabbard and the faith group. The question of whether the guru was giving advice in more recent years remains open, and I'd love to be able to look into that. I don't have access to documents that show that, but we continue to report.
Well, if you do, I would love to have you back on to hear all about it. Incredible work, extraordinary story. John Swain, thank you.
Thanks.